President Biden has been a champion for all the rights and freedoms that my father and uncles stood for. That's why nearly every single grandchild of Joe and Rose Kennedy supports Joe Biden.
I have a very different view of America, one of hope and optimism, like I hope all of you do. Optimism that Bobby Kennedy embodied.
You gotta fight him, bruh. You gotta fight him, bruh. That's the only thing left to do. He took your family. It's been a rough couple days for RFK Jr. Now, Rita Palmer was fired, clearly for the stupidity of admitting the scheme publicly, because we all know she told you what it was when you hired her, but that was a nice try. That would be like suing Donald Trump after you decided to go into business with Donald Trump. Check out the link in the description. Now, RFK's own family just kneecapped him in front of everybody, and I mean everybody.
4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years. President Biden has been a champion for all the rights and freedoms that my father and uncles stood for. That's why nearly every single grandchild of Joe and Rose Kennedy supports Joe Biden. That's right. That's right. The Kennedy family endorses Joe Biden for president. When Daddy announced his bid for the presidency in 1968, he talked about the perilous course our country would take under the wrong leadership. And he said, "I feel obliged to do all that I can. I cannot stand aside." We are here because we feel obliged to do all that we can. We cannot stand aside. In this election, no American can stand aside.
That was Kerry Kennedy who was speaking for the family, and you must be thinking, oh, well, you know, distant relatives can get a little bit crazy. That doesn't necessarily represent the whole group. That's his sister. That is his sister, his own sister. And by the way, she mentioned every single grandchild. Do you know how hard it is to get a consensus on every single grandchild? Like, do you know how bad it has to be for your campaign, for your sister to get up there and tell everybody not to vote for you, and every single one of your cousins agrees with her? And look how many people they got to show up. What family can get that many people to show up for anything? We don't even get that many people to show up for a funeral, but that many people showed up to say, don't vote for you. He posed with the whole family. They had a whole impromptu family reunion with Joe Biden. I mean, the only thing you could feel good about RFK is, I mean, at least they didn't let him talk.
Your family, the Kennedy family, has endured such violence. Denying January 6th and whitewashing what happens is absolutely outrageous. I have a very different view of America, one of hope and optimism, like I hope all of you do. Optimism that Bobby Kennedy embodied. You
gotta fight him, bruh. You gotta fight him, bruh. That's the only thing left to do. He took your family and your name. Biden talking about embodying the Kennedy legacy. You literally are a Kennedy. This is bad. This is bad. Well, I mean, at least nobody else said anything.
Because, Mr. President, candidly, why I'm here doesn't have to do with any of those things that you have done. It's what we know that you will do over the course of the next 5 years.
By the way, that was Joe Kennedy III, former congressman from Massachusetts. You might remember his State of the Union response where he had the stuff.
A government that struggles to keep itself open. Russia, knee-deep in our democracy. An all-out war on environmental protection.
That was smart to go wide with the shot, just in case. But RFK Jr., these kids be crazy. This is a whole new generation. They have different ideas. I mean, it's not like your own people.
We cannot do anything that in any way strips even one vote from President Biden. And a guy, you put the name Kennedy on the ballot and Democrats are gonna feel torn. And we are trying to make them understand that this is an issue that they do not have to feel torn about. That the entire Kennedy family, every single one of us, in every family, have all supported President Biden. I've never heard of that before in my family.
Would you encourage your brother to drop out?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Of course I would.
Appreciate your time.
That is his brother. By the way, that is his brother. You got his sister going up in front of everybody, and that is his brother. And he was so desperate to get this message out to say, don't vote for you. He came down there in crutches. He came down there in crutches to say, don't vote for you. When my uncle was on crutches, he wouldn't even go to the mailbox. He did a whole meet and greet today to say, don't vote for you. That is the state of the RFK Jr. campaign. Now, I know we've all had disagreements with friends in public. We've all had disagreements with family in public. But this is a family that called the public to see the disagreement. They called the public to say he is cut off. I don't know if you can even come to the family reunion at this point. I really don't. Like, they might have a picture of you behind security with a line through it like they do the shoplifters in the grocery store. There's disagreeing in public, and there's getting blown up in public in front of everybody.
You put the name Kennedy on the ballot and Democrats are gonna feel torn. And we are trying to make them understand that this is an issue that they do not have to feel torn about.
Then he called you out on using the name. He called you out on misusing the name, and that is your name. And then they just gave it to Joe Biden. Now there is one bright side, RFK Jr. I'm looking far and wide. There's one bright side. At least they didn't go to the national media.
Well, I think, nobody competes with President Biden when it comes to carrying on the legacies of John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Ted Kennedy.
You got to move away, bro. You got to move away. Start a new life. Is there like a Uber or OnlyFans for family? Like asking for RFK Jr. Is there an app that he can get to deliver him a new family? Because you can't go to no more Kennedy functions. I don't know how you do it without throwing hands and feet. I mean, you just can't.
The establishment concocted a swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election.
Come on now, Lauren. You gonna sit there and act like you don't like a swampy backroom deal? Let's be honest, we all like a swampy backroom deal. You just mad you weren't invited. Colorado Representative Ken Buck just threw the big joker on the table. Whoa, that's a whole nother card. That was a draw 4, Liz Cheney. But damn, Bimbert is amazing. I went with Bobo for this video, but your suggestion is duly noted.
This place just keeps going downhill, and I don't need to spend my time here. We've taken impeachment and we've made it a social media issue as opposed to a constitutional concept. Mike Johnson's ability to talk me into staying here is going to be about as successful as his ability into talking me into unconstitutional impeachments.
Ken Buck tossed his retirement papers in the whole party's face. Anybody else get Jaden Smith vibes from The Pursuit of Happiness? I hate it here. I want to go home.
It is the worst year of the 9 years and 3 months that I've been in Congress. And having talked to former members, it's the worst year in 40, 50 years to be in Congress.
Buck's decision to retire from Congress this month has made Lauren Boebert's bid to succeed him a little bit more spicy. And she is salty.
The Uniparty is trying to do everything that they can to stop my candidacy, to rig the election in Colorado.
Now, initially, Buck announced he wouldn't run for re-election in Colorado's 4th Congressional District, which covers the eastern part of the state. However, he accelerated his retirement plans because apparently those hearings are just as insufferable as they look on C-SPAN.
One thing. I want my Republican colleagues to give me one thing, one, that I can go campaign on and say we did. One. Anybody sitting in the complex, if you want to come down to the floor and come explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done besides, well, I guess it's not as bad as the Democrats.
My man just grabbed a mic and retired in the middle of his shift.
Attention all shoppers, associates, and management. I would like to say to all of you today that nobody should work here, ever.
Announcing his departure by the end of the following week, prompting a special election June 25th to complete the remainder of the term, coinciding with the state's primary election. In other words, there'll be an election for the rest of his term at the same time as the primary election to take his seat. It's kind of like long-term dating and short-term dating at the same time. Like, yeah, I'm looking for a wife. Let me see if she's in this tilted kilt. This all makes Lauren Boebert's electoral path more challenging because she currently represents Colorado's 3rd congressional district, situated in the opposite end of the state from Buck's district. Now, there were conflicting reports about whether she could even run in a special election while representing another part of the state, but it's moot because she opted not to, saving herself the embarrassment of the GOP picking somebody else to throw their support behind. It's kind of like when you quit that job right after you got your 3rd strike.
It's a joke. And even she laughs. But it's not funny.
But wait a minute. She already has a seat. Why all this confusion about switching districts?
It's a joke. And even she laughs. But it's not funny.
Well, late last year, she declared her candidacy for Buck's seat after narrowly winning re-election against Democrat Adam Frisch in her own district. Now, Frisch is also running for re-election in the 3rd, setting the stage for another competitive race, and she doesn't want any of that smoke. Now, that's odd. She just defeated Adam Frisch. Why would she run to the other end of Colorado? I mean, this can't be good for her family.
I hope it was full of laughter and joy. After all, joy is not just a suggestion, it is our battle plan.
Did she just call joy a battle plan? Yeah, we gonna fight till we feel happiness in our hearts. Combat for glee.
It's the right move for me personally, and it's the right decision for those who support our conservative movement. This is the right move for Colorado, for us. Since the first day I ran for public office, I promised I would do whatever it takes to stop the socialists and communists from taking over our country. That means staying in the fight, but it also means not allowing Hollywood elites and progressive money groups to buy the 3rd district, a seat that they have no business owning. I will not allow dark money that is directed at destroying me personally to steal this seat. It's not fair to the 3rd district and the conservatives there who have fought so hard for our victories, of which I'm incredibly grateful.
Oh, so she's doing it for the people. Well, let's see what people we're talking about. So she lived and worked over here on the left by the arrow, and she wants to represent the people on the right in the 4th district, a move less sensible than Kevin Durant to Brooklyn. But more importantly, why, Lauren? Why?
Personally, this announcement is a fresh start following a pretty difficult year for me and my family. I had never been in politics before, and I'd never been through a divorce, something I never intended to go through. I've made my own personal mistakes and have owned up and apologized for them. It's tested my faith, my strength, and my abilities, both as a mom and a congresswoman. It's been humbling and challenging, but it's also given me perspective and helped me grow.
Oh, well, that's all you had to say. This is your fresh start, your geographic. I did that back in my 20s after I got kicked out of a house share in San Francisco. Went all the way back to New York City, but my behavior went with me. But I do wish you the best. I hope your mistakes stay on the western part of the state and everything works out for your family. What? I'm sorry, what's that? Well, you know, divorces can be hard and complicated, but hopefully the kids but see, ultimately, it's really just about Lauren, right? It's really just about her. Like, she's the one who's elected. Well, I mean, I'm sure she's learned her lesson, one of compassion and forgiveness that she can now extend to other people. The stakes are high, with Buck's seat having favored Trump by more than 18 points. In a statement issued through her campaign, she emphasized her commitment to representing her constituents' priorities while striving to earn the support of voters in Colorado's 4th District, who have shown a desire for a conservative representative.
So we're going to inject President Trump's policies with steroids and put them all into one. And my bill is called Build the Wall, Deport Them All.
Sorry, y'all. That was the wrong clip.
I like to make a lot of noise. Closed mouths don't get fed. So I put public pressure campaigns on people who are not serving the Republican agenda, the America First agenda correctly. And that's pretty effective. But also, I love legislating. The Uniparty is trying to do everything that they can to stop my candidacy, to rig the election in Colorado. And, this is breaking news as of yesterday. Ken Buck's announcement yesterday was a gift to the Uniparty. The establishment concocted a swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election that I'm winning by 25 points, forcing an unnecessary special election when the same day as the primary election in Colorado.
Now, why would the Uniparty go to such great lengths just to get little Lauren Boebert out of Congress? Like, why would they make that such a priority for them? Maybe it's because you are the kind of person that will go into a public theater and vape around a pregnant woman. And then you will go and deny and say, no, I did not do that, even though you know that you did. You're also challenging that nobody would come with footage, even though we literally all have camera phones in our pocket. And by the way, it's a theater, a home of all of the multimedia instruments that they can afford. It's a place where they're most likely to have some kind of footage. Even worse, you know that vaping around the pregnant woman wasn't the only thing you were guilty of. If in fact they have footage of you doing that, they also have footage of you with your mans trying to give up to Fannie Willis. So you went to a public theater, tried to give up to Fannie Willis, and then took out your vape and then lied about it as if you weren't in a theater, a place that's rife with cameras around a rack of people. And even worse, you thought that was a decent way to conduct yourself as a member of Congress. I wouldn't go to a theater and try and give up to Fannie Willis because I think it might make my YouTube channel look bad. You did it with no concern whatsoever for all the people of Colorado that you represent. Might that have something to do with why the Uniparty wants you out of Congress? You are in the right party.
And Lauren, you're going to do fantastically in your district. Lauren Boebert, thank you.
I told you.
I'm going to have to look that one up. But it sounds interesting, and I don't think I want to be a part of it.
A local activist working with the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. campaign to get him on the New York ballot just gave up the whole game, saying she wants Republicans to unite behind Kennedy to defeat President Joe Biden in the general election. Rita Palmer was speaking to a local Hudson Valley group after being hired by the Kennedy campaign as New York State Director about 3 weeks ago. And now I present to you a film I have entitled Dry Snitching for Dummies.
So there's no Biden voters in the House, right? No. Okay, good. Things, I guess, will change over time because you do have to only pick one candidate at the end of the day. But the Kennedy voter and the Trump voter, the enemy, our mutual enemy is Biden. If the Republicans accepted the fact that New York, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois, California, New Jersey, Connecticut, most of the Northeast is going to go blue, why wouldn't we put our vote to Bobby and at least get rid of Biden and get those 28 electoral votes in New York? The card's a little wrong. It says 26 electoral votes. Give those 28 electoral votes to Bobby rather than to Biden, thereby reducing Biden's 270.
What is wrong with these kids today? I mean, we was doing dirt back when we were young, but the self-snitching is just out of hand. Like, if you're not flossing on Instagram doing the money phone or putting all the money on your bag, here you are talking to the Hudson Valley group and exposing the whole scheme. You know, the scheme still works, even if you don't lay it out step by step. But I appreciate the honesty, and by honesty, I mean the stupidity of the entire thing. And by the way, I especially appreciated this part.
Since Biden is counting on us with Bobby in the mix, my thought is for the Republicans. See, Bobby right now, he's pulling from both sides. Right now, he's actually pulling a little bit more from Biden, which explains why the DNC is kind of ganging up on him. They have a special committee to go after independent candidates. Yeah, they say independent candidates, like non-affiliated candidates. They really mean Bobby, because Bobby's the only third party that anybody's taking seriously. So they developed a committee just to go after him and to get him off of the ballot.
Biden ganging up means him trying to get independent voters. Wow, I didn't know winning voters was called ganging up. I didn't realize that's what that's called. What, like we just respecting corners? Like this is The Wire? Like these are my corners over here. These are my voters over here. Don't you come over on my territory getting my voters. Aren't you the newest on the scene? Aren't you the first one to hit the block? So really, these aren't even your corners. You're supposed to be over in new territory over there by the gas station, trying to see if you can win some new customers. Isn't that what you're supposed to be doing? And also, I love the fact that she's accusing Biden of ganging up on Kennedy by trying to get independent voters, even though she opens this entire thing by talking about how she's in cahoots with the Trump campaign to get Biden out. So that's not ganging up, but what Biden is doing is ganging up. I mean, the delusion is so strong. If you didn't know that she was on the Trump train before, you definitely should know it now by the sheer level of the delusion. That is the highest level. By the way, just in case you were wondering what all the significance of this might be,
the Kennedy voter and the Trump voter, the enemy, our mutual enemy is Biden. Whether you support Bobby or Trump, we all oppose Biden. 270 wins the election. If you don't get to 270, if nobody gets to 270, then Congress picks the president, right? Right now, we have a majority of Republicans in Congress, so who are they going to pick? Who are they going to pick if it's a Republican Congress? They'll pick Trump. So we're rid of Biden either way.
Now, I did occasionally attend classes at Columbia University over the course of 4 years before they gave me a piece of paper that I think is in the basement somewhere. But I will brag about having whenever it suits me. I also lived there most of my adult life because they don't charge you to ride the subway, you know, at least not officially. What I know about New York, it doesn't really sound like the best candidate for this whole scheme.
He's more of a classic liberal, classic Democrat from back in the 60s, and they aren't quite as repulsive as what's going on right now with the Democratic Party. Okay, so New York is really a good environment for doing just this because the combination of Republicans and independents almost equal half. The Democrats are just over, they're like 51, 52%. But between the Republicans and the independents, we get to almost 50%. So if the Democrats are moving in our direction and the Republicans, you know, accept the fact that New York is going to go blue, then we can definitely give Bobby the 28 and chip away at Biden's 270. In fact, all we need is like 4 blue states, and there's no way he can get in.
What? I mean, the trees must be Republican upstate, and clearly the rats must be independents in the city. I don't know how they got to 49%. Now, could this whole thing actually work?
We've had prominent third-party candidates in the past. How have they done?
Well, Ralph Nader almost definitely decided the 2000 election against Al Gore and for George Bush because he received like 90,000 votes in Florida, and that election was decided by fewer than 600 votes. So if you do the math, I think you can say some of those Nader voters would have voted for Al Gore, and so that one for sure. Hillary Clinton supporters in 2016 say the Green Party candidate Jill Stein badly hurt them in 3 states. It's harder to tell there because you'd have to say every Jill Stein voter would have voted for Hillary Clinton. But it definitely had an outcome on how close those states were.
Now, here's what pisses me off about this entire thing. You have lots of Americans out here looking at our 2-party system, looking at our 2 candidates, and trying to decide between the least of 2 evils because they don't believe that either one truly represents their interests. It's like trying to decide what college to go to. Meanwhile, you really just want to take a year off to sober up and then party for the rest of the 11 months. Ideally, this is a true meritocracy, and you can have a candidate or a party or a movement that gains grassroots support and people push them. It might take multiple election cycles. It probably will take multiple election cycles to actually rise to the point where they could challenge the 2-party system. But that would be our American ideal. And what you have right here is people actively using the disenchantment that people feel with our 2-party system and the realistic fact that voting for a third-party candidate pulls a vote from either Republicans or Democrats and will benefit one of the 2 of them. You have people that are using that dilemma of whether or not to vote with their hearts or vote with their heads to benefit the 2-party system. Shit. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, maybe she just went rogue. I mean, the campaign isn't necessarily guilty of what she has planned. And for that, I present to you a film I've entitled Self-Snitching 102.
People kept continually telling me, wow, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. So, you know, I'm kind of mulling it around. What should I do with this? What should I do with this? And then I got a call from the campaign. And, you know, they were going to hire me as their New York State director. And I said, okay, I want to take the job, but I'm going to tell you right now that this is part of my messaging. And if I'm allowed to preach that, if I'm allowed to, you know, get that message out there, then yeah, I will definitely work for the campaign, but I don't want to be restricted in what I say because I think this is a really winning strategy. And my boss said, well, okay.
And if that wasn't good enough, we got 103. 104. 105. This woman was literally there on January 6th, according to her own accounts, because she loves self-snitching, but has since deleted any photos of that day from her social media, which, by the way, is a telltale sign of where you are on January 6th, the missing day. Oh, let's see. It looks like on January 3rd and 4th, you were gathering supplies in order to take a road trip. And then here you are on your way down to DC with Trump flags on your car. And mysteriously, January 6th is missing. But here you are on the 7th on your way back home from what appears to be DC. You want to hide it like a little bit better than that? I mean, I was better at hiding stuff like that when I had to delete stuff in my phone because I didn't know if somebody was going to break in it when I was in the shower. You can't just delete the incriminating stuff. Message. Also take note, there's not a lot of long-standing RFK Jr. supporters. Naturally, some of the people would be former Trump supporters or former Biden supporters, but in the hierarchy of Trump supporters, you have the people that were independents that were swayed by maybe some tax benefits, and then you have the people that are lifelong Republicans that just couldn't see fit to cross the aisle, and then you have the people who feel like Trump really aligns with their values, or at least is pushing their conservative values and what he's done with the courts and things like that, so you decide to stay on the Trump train. And then you have the people that have flags on their front yard, flags on their cars, people that were there on January 6th. These are the people you decided to pull from in order to hire for your campaign. And by the way, you can't even fire her now, because according to her, you signed off on all of this. I mean, this is bad. I mean, I haven't seen anybody done this bad since, I mean, well, your wife Cheryl remembers.
You pull their asshole open, step into their asshole, close the door behind you, take a spray paint can, right? Larry was here. You spray paint, Larry was here, wash me, all that kind of shit. Fuck his whole asshole up. These some Snicker bars, throw some paper on the floor, read a newspaper, ball of paper up the newspaper, and throw the newspaper on the floor. Fuck his whole asshole up. You know what I'm saying? Then you open that asshole one more time. Open it again, open that asshole again. Oh! Step out his ass. And leave that motherfucker wide open so he know you been there.
Y'all know her? Somebody know her? Somebody get your girl. Here we go. Okay, Fox News won't stop running this, so here we go. It all started when Donald Trump made a visit to a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta.
So can I have 30 milkshakes? And also some chicken. I'm going to take care of the customers.
The Chick-fil-A employees acted like Chick-fil-A employees, and everything went smoothly, at least until this one decided to come for Candace Owens' spot.
I'm here to meet you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we've also knocked doors for you in the past, or your past re-election bid, and when you ran the first time. Yes, I was interning for the GAGOP at that time. So, doing a lot for your tax credit reform bill and everything like that.
Well, we took care of those colleges and universities.
Sure did. Much better than mine did. So, this is more house, this is more smaller. So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. Okay, 4 p.m. We do 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Now, first of all, have y'all been to a Chick-fil-A? They got the nicest employees in the game. They treat me like I used to be president, and I walk in with jeans with holes in them that aren't intentional. Now, if this would have happened at I don't know, Steak and Shake, at a Waffle House, the Cookout, or the Varsity, then it would be notable. Things got real, and by real, I mean fake after the fact. The woman who hugged Trump was revealed to be Michaela Montgomery, who runs a conservative group, was a Republican Party intern, and a former city director for Blexit, as in Candace Owens' Blexit. Now, what are the chances that she would be there? Now, one of two things happened. Either Trump just dropped into a Chick-fil-A and just happened to run into a black woman who runs a conservative group, was a Republican Party intern and a former Blexit city director, or this was staged. Now, if I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that it was option A, well, then you probably wouldn't want to use the video on loop of the woman who was a Republican Party intern, runs a conservative group, and is a former Blexit city director, because, you know, it looks bad. I'm forced to assume nothing but that it was staged. And be honest, I'm not even mad at Trump for this. I mean, presidents and candidates do this kind of staged activity all of the time. Biden does it. I think it's odd the continued assertion about young black people, though.
Very interesting. As you see black support eroding from Joe Biden, this is connecting with black America because they love sneakers. They're into sneakers. They love the, this is a big deal, certainly in the inner city.
That I do find odd because this just seems to happen over and over and over again, targeting young black people.
The mugshot has breathed new life into the Trump campaign and broadened his appeal to black Americans.
Because if the support was there, right, if the support in the community was there, you wouldn't need to be talking about it all the time, now would you? You wouldn't. No, kind of like your boy who won't shut up about, hey, I went to the club last night and it was crazy. Every time you're not there to see it. But it's Fox News.
When I take my kids now to Chick-fil-A, which I believe President Trump called God's chicken today in his Atlanta stop-off,
you know what, Clay,
which
hold
was
on. We're going to show
amazing.
a little bit from that.
Yes.
From Donald Trump buying everybody milkshakes and chicken at Chick-fil-A. Watch.
Blowing this out as if it's anything other than the sham that it really is. Wait, what's that? Oh, they put her on TV? They would. They'll let black people embarrass themselves anytime.
The talking points were lies. I mean, who was the racist that was there? The people at the fundraiser, Tim Scott was there, Vivek Ramaswamy, the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson was there, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, Steve Wynn. Like, these are
You know what he's
folks.
saying, right? Because apparently the people that you just listed on that list, they're all black, but they're not Democrats.
Sorry, that was the wrong clip of black person embarrassing themselves on Fox News.
How the media can warp the perception of an opinion or a person. Because, like I said, to think that these students who attend these illustrious institutions aren't smart enough to make their own decisions, much so that they would only show support for Trump because he bought chicken sandwiches and milkshakes.
It's offensive.
That in itself is the most disturbing part of it all, especially when you think about the fact that it was mainly urban media outlets that were doing everything in their power to turn other black people against these young black kids who simply were not shy to explore other options.
Oh, the media manipulating the narrative. You mean like this? Or like this? Or like this? Man, the way the media has been weaponized against Trump is wild. I mean, it really is.
It's so incredible, and I think you hit it on the head. By the way, the former president, gave a lot of funding to HBCUs.
Oh, HBCU funding, you say. And you saved yourself by saying a lot of funding, because you couldn't have said more funding than Biden. You couldn't have said unprecedented funding, so I'm just going to go with a lot of funding. I'm just going to go with a lot of funding. Way to clean that up.
Traditionally, Republicans don't do well in black America, but a lot of young black Americans like the former president. What is it about him?
I think, and this is a sentiment I get a lot coming from the young people themselves, is that they feel like he's honest. They feel like this is somebody who, while we might not agree with how he says things, how he goes about things, at least he's telling us what it is.
Did she say he was honest? Now I get it. Now I see why the line to get paid by Trump just keeps getting longer. Now I totally understand it, because I look and see that line. Wow, it's people waiting on checks for decades. I'm not going to go into business with this person. It is enough lawsuits for people trying to get their money from Trump to fill one of his hotels that his name had to get taken off of. But now I understand why he keeps finding people to go into business with him. Exhibit A and Exhibit B.
Michaela, what has Biden done for our community? What has he done for Black America?
Oh, this should be good.
Well, he locked up a lot of people that look like me, and they're still sitting in jail waiting for, justice, an appeal of some sort.
You see the internet cut out? The internet cut out. It was allergic to the bullshit.
So when it comes to what Joe Biden has done for Black America, if we look specifically at his record as a senator.
You do know that he's president, right?
It wasn't something that benefited us at all. If anything, one could argue that he dedicated his entire senatorial career
he was president
to disrupting the way of life, for Black people. He didn't want Black kids going to the same school as his kids. He didn't want Black people walking on the sidewalk along with his mother and grandmother. So the fact that we ignore these things that were said on the Senate floor, like this is somebody who passed legislation with the sole intent of oppressing a certain community. And we're going to act like that didn't happen, or we're going to act like it can be overshadowed
as president
by somebody's comments a few years down the line that made us feel some type of way. Feeling some type of way is completely different when you can feel a certain type of way at home. There's people who are, as of right now, spending the rest of their lives in jail because, Joe Biden thought that they deserved it, as if there isn't retribution. And then you had somebody like Trump come in and give us the First Step Act.
Oh, now we on Trump.
To try and right the wrongs that were done with this 3 strikes rule, and nobody's talking about that.
This is what's wild about Trump supporters when they talk about race. They don't want to talk about the racial discrimination lawsuit. No, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the racism with the casinos, when him and Ivanka would come in and they hide all the Black people. No. We don't want to talk. We're talking about him as president. But with Biden, you want to bring up the 94 crime bill. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. You want to bring up the 94 crime bill, but you definitely do not want to open the book when it comes to Donald Trump's history when it comes to race. The only way you can have a legitimate conversation that lasts longer than 60 seconds about these two men on race is if you compare Biden's whole 80-plus year life or possibilities of missteps when it comes to Black people in 4 years from Trump. You know how bad that is? 4 years from Trump against 80-plus years from Biden. That's the only way you can have any sort of legitimate conversation about the two of those guys on race. And Trump might have been worse in the 4 years. I'm not even going to give you that one.
Thank you! Tell my mama I made it!
One of the things that they propose is Black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket. But at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars.
But I would ask, do you want a check for a few $1,000s, or do you want a father who's in your life and married to your mother? Because if you have a father in your life...
Hey, ain't nobody trying to hear that bullshit.
Okay, by now, y'all are probably familiar with Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. And if you're not, you should be.
And let me tell you why nobody wants to talk to y'all behind closed doors, because y'all lie. That's just the bottom line. You have done it thus far in this investigation. You have done it this far as it relates to this committee. In every single hearing, y'all spin. I don't know how y'all are still standing right now, because you should be quite dizzy from all the spinning that you're constantly doing when it comes to spinning the truth. You talk about free and fair elections, but you back a guy who we know tried to steal the election. So, to be clear, whatever happens to your little leader, it's going to be because of the actions that he took. So you can talk all you want to about how January 6th was nonsense, but all of y'all were running at that time. Y'all were grabbing y'all's gas masks and y'all were running to your offices because you didn't know if they were coming to kill you. You should have cared that somebody was there to protect you, but instead you want to play games because you found out that it was your leader that decided that he wanted to propagate an insurrection on our country. So don't tell me that you care about the Constitution, because you don't. All you care about is Trump getting reelected, and I'll yield the last of my time to my leader.
Get him.
Would you consider erectile dysfunction as a life-saving usage for Viagra?
Not life-saving.
Not life-saving. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you that based on my research, that mifepristone actually has life-saving characteristics, yet Viagra doesn't. And for those that don't know, Viagra, from my understanding, is actually nearly 10 times greater as it relates to risk of death. Yet for some reason, it's not sitting in the court right now.
She's the first person in Congress that has me yelling, "Let them fight," at C-SPAN. Well, she was giving an interview and the subject of reparations came up.
One of the things that they propose is black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket. But at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars. But obviously then you start dealing with the different tax brackets and things like that. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, we argue the reparations make sense, because so many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and all the other things, right? But the fact is, like, we end up being so far behind, right? And so it's like, how do you bring forth people? Exactly. And so it's like, if you do the no tax thing for people that are already, say, struggling and aren't really paying taxes in the first place, it doesn't really exactly.
They may want those checks like they got during
COVID. Exactly.
Well, that's an interesting concept, being as how waiting as long as possible and letting the amounts become either impossible to conceive of or impossible to calculate seems to be the preferred method of justice when it comes to reparations.
If it is about the why, and we got to cut the check, don't punk out, somebody needs to figure out the how. So we tried. We did the math because San Francisco won't, and here it is. Let's say every black resident in the city is eligible, right? It would cost the city $2 billion. $200 billion.
You know, never mind it. We had money for other groups. We even had money for the slave owners. But black Americans, yeah, we just gonna wait y'all out. Now, never missing an opportunity to be racist, Fox News' Reese Waters had this to say in response.
But I would ask, do you want a check for a few $1,000s, or do you want a father who's in your life and married to your mother? Because if you have a father in your life, that check's gone after you cash it. You will, if you have a father, that is the single most determinative factor to financial success in this country. And that's what it should be about.
Okay, now, first of all, why is that a choice? Why is that a choice? Because that's not how payment works. I don't believe after 2 weeks of working at Fox News, they bring you in, Reese Waters, and say, hey, so we got all this money that you earn, but if you like, we can give you a couple fathers in the home. How's that? Would you rather have some fathers in the home? Would you rather have the money that you earned? Because that's how payment works.
Do you want a check for a few $1,000s, or do you want a father who's in your life and married to your mother?
Now, I wonder why the fathers aren't there. That is odd. Like, where are the fathers? Where did they go? You know, are they locked up somewhere? What? They are locked up somewhere. Now, I wonder who was responsible for creating that system. Would it be the same ones responsible for the system that had us enslaved and won't pay us reparations? Because the fact that you asked the question is pretty curious, because if you're asking the question, it's coming from a place of having some control over both of those two things. So if I get this straight, you get to take all the fathers out the home, you get to withhold reparations, and then tell me that you can give me one of the two, as if both aren't damning of y'all as a society. That is fascinating. Hey, I can stop cheating or pay the bills. Just one or the other. No, it can't be both. Can't be both.
Do you want a check for a few $1,000s, or do you want a father who's in your life and married to your mother?
Hey, Reese Waters, this you? This is you, right? Because I'm pretty sure this is you. So are you a father in the home? Or are you a father outside the home asking me about would I rather have fathers in the home? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing? Because when you do it, it's different though, right? Let me ask you a question, Jesse Waters. Would you rather have some strange or a father in the home? Because apparently you would rather have some strange. That's what it looks like right now. Would you rather have some strange or a father in the home? I can't believe a father outside the home is asking me would I rather have a father in the home. Fox News. That's why I could never work for Fox News. If I was outside the home, I couldn't bring myself to go on camera and say this kind of stuff about people. No shame. They got no shame. I aspire to one day have the lack of self-awareness that comes with working for Fox News. Like I one day, do you realize how successful I could be if I had no shame and no self-awareness whatsoever? Do you know how successful I can be with that just unbridled confidence? I mean, the kind of man that can stare down barrel and tell you that a father in the home is the strongest indicator of financial success while I get in my car and go to a different home. That's wild. That is wild. Maybe one day.
I am appalled because for whatever reason, some people want us to go back to horse and buggy in this country. And I think since now maybe we have the internet, maybe we should take advantage of it.
Okay, so I'm here with Brad Barnes, who just filed an arrest for the Fulton County DA.
Yes, sir. Let's put Fannie and Nikki in jail. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
An Atlanta judge on Friday ruled that Fani Willis.
It's actually pronounced Fani. It's F-A-N-I, but you pronounce it Fani, a little French accent there.
F-A-N-I, Fani. How do you pronounce F-A-N-I, Fani?
The Fulton County District Attorney could continue leading the prosecution of former President Donald Trump and his assorted motley crew in Georgia, but only if her former boo, Nathan Wade, withdraws from the case, which gives us an age-old decision. Do you pick love or do you pick your career, your future, a possible life-altering case? I have been in this situation. I think many of us have been in this situation. You know, your supervisor come in and say, if she comes to this job one more time, you fired. And then you have a decision to make. Look, the decision is actually pretty easy. Think about all that you've had to deal with that has followed this particular affair.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis? Mr. Sena, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes.
If after all that's happened, you still want that old thing back?
He had experience in something else. You know that.
If you still find yourself in your moments of frustration, hiding from the press, still wishing you were cuddled up with Nathan Wade, then you, my friend, have found your one true love. And I say you pursue it with all of the passion that you pursued this case. However, if that's not how you're feeling about the situation, then the choice is career. You pick your career and you keep it pushing. And I want you to consider all things. I want you to consider, does he help you with the dishes? Does he share the remote? Now, I haven't really covered the ins and outs of this particular case because I haven't really covered the ins and outs of any of the cases involving Donald Trump. I'll reference them, but I don't really cover the day-to-day.
And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time.
And you know why? Who all think Donald Trump going to jail? Show of hands. Who think Donald Trump going to jail? Okay, who all thinks that Donald Trump is going to be disqualified from the ballot? Now, I didn't say, should he go to jail? I didn't say, should he be disqualified from the ballot? I said, do you think it's going to happen? And I have no reason to think that's going to happen. I've had too many credible allegations and in some cases convictions when it comes to this man with little to no impact on him whatsoever. It's like I'm watching a serial drama and you're in the middle of season 3 in episode 10, and all of a sudden the perpetrator has the hero over the ledge, and it cuts to commercial, and you're like, oh, is he gonna drop him over the ledge? No, it's episode 10 of a 24 episode season in the middle of season 3. Like, why would I think anything's going to happen now? That's exactly how I've been made to feel about Donald Trump. There's only so many times that you can lie to me and say something's about to happen, unless you're Fox News. Apparently Fox News can lie for decades and people will still trust them.
How far down will the Biden regime allow our economy to fall before it breaks the bank on every single American?
In the meantime, we were watching something that you might have noticed in the corner of your screen here. The Dow has never been higher than this. That is a new record.
The economy is in an inflationary nightmare.
3.3% GDP growth in the fourth quarter, a incredible gangbusters employment number this past Friday. Inflation has been slashed.
Everything was better under Trump by every measurement, every barometer. The Dow closing at another record high. It's 7th record of the year.
He's bringing back Bidenomics. Now, of course, he didn't have much to say because there's very little good news on the economy to share.
Well, there is good news in the economy, Brett. I mean, inflation has indeed moderated. Growth has been strong. The stock market is hitting records.
It's as if the Biden administration burps out these statistics. Oh, everything's great.
The economy is not just good, it's great.
But it's only but so many times you can lie to me and say something's about to happen before I'm like, yeah, keep it pushing. Look, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying he shouldn't go. I'm saying y'all know he ain't going. Y'all know ain't nothing happening. You know ain't nothing happening. Now, the ruling by Judge Scott McAfee of Fulton Superior Court split the baby between removing Willis for a conflict of interest and her full vindication. The judge sharply criticized her for dating Wade, whom she hired as a special prosecutor on the case, calling it, quote, a tremendous lapse in judgment. Well, we've all had tremendous lapses in judgment. I mean, we've all been there. You just usually only feel ashamed when you return to that particular grocery store or PTA meeting. Hey, I don't judge. Although the decision is a setback for Trump and his 14 co-defendants, likely leaving in place the DA who has been pursuing the case for more than 3 years, Willis emerges from weeks of embarrassing hearings.
Well, it's highly offensive when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right, well, with a bruised reputation that could color views of a future jury, making convictions more difficult. Now, this is kind of a tough one because on the one hand, you would probably want for a fish this big in order to have all your ducks in a row, and any particular specific liabilities you have going into this case, you might want to go ahead and eliminate. At the same time, what exactly does her and Mr. Wade have to do with Trump's guilt or innocence?
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
What part of Fani Willis's nightlife has anything to do with how Trump behaved with regards to the 2020 election? Moreover, I don't think people are making up their minds on this particular case based on what Fani Willis and Wade did and where they did it and were they on vacation and who paid for the Victoria's Secrets. Oh no, that's Fredericks of Hollywood. Don't you dare disrespect me. I don't think anybody's making their decision based on that. I think first and foremost, they're making their decision based on how they feel about Donald Trump.
Yes, sir. Let's put Fannie and Nikki in jail.
Okay. There we go. Maybe you can make that happen.
Whether or not this came out or it didn't, people would be looking for any and everything, any possible reason they possibly could to try and throw dirt on this particular case and muddy the waters. This is what it happens to be, but it's not like they wouldn't find one or invent one if this didn't come out in the first place.
Let's talk about Fannie.
Oh yeah, oh boy. We, all of Georgia, we are so embarrassed by this woman. We want her out of office. We're doing everything we can to get her out.
I want you to Google Marjorie Taylor Greene and affairs. Just go ahead and Google that. I'm gonna give you a second. Pause the video if you have to. I want you to Google Marjorie Taylor Greene and affairs. The lack of self-awareness people show with regards to this, as if this isn't something that is so rife and rampant, not only in DA offices, but the politicians that have so many opinions about this particular issue. You know what, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I got something for you. No. I got something for you, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Stay tuned. It's dropping soon. Now, this all started back in January when Ashley Merchant, a lawyer for one of the defendants, charged in a court filing that Willis engaged in a clandestine relationship with Nathan Wade, a lawyer she hired to manage the prosecution. I actually gave my thoughts in a past episode of Street Politics. Let he or she who has not got Bay a job cast the first stone. We've all had our nose open before. But you get Bay a job working security. You get Bay a job working at Panera Bread, not as lead prosecutor to take down the president. What part of that was like, let me do my mans a favor? Oh, he's good. He just needed an opportunity. Well, now he probably not gonna get it because you both about to be thrown off the case. And how come it's always the boyfriend or girlfriend talk about all they needed was an opportunity? How come nobody else saw this talent? Huh? You the only one. You the only one, and you happen to have seen this talent. It might not have something to do with another talent they might have, huh? Because everybody else who's not being blessed with that other talent can't see this talent. Now, these charges were corroborated in mid-February when defense lawyers questioned Terrence Bradley, a former law partner of Wade, who also served as his divorce lawyer. He was 10 toes down on the stand. And then hundreds of text messages obtained by the New York Times showed that Bradley helped Merchant, the defense lawyer, to expose the relationship between the two prosecutors. I ain't seen nobody turn on a black man that fast since Clarence Thomas. I mean, what really was the point? What really was the point of sitting there and giving that fervent defense and trying to act like you solid when you know you release all the text messages that corroborated this affair in the first place? Like, I'm a turn on him, but ain't gonna be no video. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a snitch, but I'll just make sure ain't no snitch receipts. Okay? I mean, I guess me sending the Texas this snitch receipts, I should have rethought that. I probably should have rethought that. If you can't even trust divorce lawyers, then what exactly are we doing? And by the way, those who defend Fani Willis, one of the things they will say is that you have to find somebody for a case like this where Trump plays dirty and he's looking for any possible reason to squirm out and poke holes in the case. You have to find somebody that you trust 1,000%. And so if it happens to be somebody that you have a relationship with, then so be it. Fani Willis had the decision of trying to reach out and find somebody and just roll the dice that she could trust that person, or find somebody in Nathan Wade who she knew she could trust. Well, it's hard to poo-poo that defense when he's getting turned on by his divorce lawyer. But you know what? Y'all let me know what you think. Should Fani Willis stay on this case, or should she turn it over to somebody else to prosecute Donald Trump? Let me know in the comments, or of course you can always email me at reese.waters@gmail.com.
If you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone. We are all descended from slaves. Yeah. Well, all of us. Yeah. It's just a question of when. What advantages did it do? My color, my skin, give me. Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away.
Apartheid is a hell of a drug. Okay, before I drag Elon Musk back to Johannesburg, we all know Don Lemon's deal with Musk went down like my GPA after I found that cool bodega in college. It was just hours after the former CNN anchor's interview with Musk for the debut episode of his new show, which was part of his deal with X. Now, according to Lemon, Elon publicly encouraged me to join X with a new show, saying I would have his full support. He later added that he took Musk at his word and he was, quote, interested in working directly with diverse voices.
But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice.
And there does seem to be some fire behind that smoke. Musk posted last year, it'd be great to have Rachel Maddow, Don Lemon, and others on the left put their shows on this platform. No exclusivity or legal docs required. You will receive our full support. The digital town square is for all.
Leave that as a false statement you're making.
In another post, Musk directly appealed to Lemon. Have you considered doing your show on this platform? Maybe worth a try. Audience is much bigger.
There's no evidence of that.
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
Now that's interesting. Why would a guy who has systematically amplified far-right voices all of a sudden be courting big-name voices from the left? I mean, he literally just posted this. Under a Photoshop picture of Biden giving him a medal, even though the guy in the picture was misidentified and all the charges were dropped. It was so wrong, his own app had to give readers more context, but it's still up, so this ain't about truth or both sides. Could it be that he's trying to buy himself a pass to amplify even more far-right voices? I can see the thinking, Don. Elon has a perception problem on X. Actually, he has an actual problem on X. Black people was trending a week ago and the whole thing read like a white sheet message board. Leftists, centrists, and people with good sense are fleeing the platform. He gonna throw a bag at somebody to change that perception. Somebody he could point to. What about me? I like bags, and that's what this was. It was no different than the black people Fox News drags out or the liberals that are there just to get shouted down. But not you, Jessica Tarloff. She is about that life.
This was another day where it was readily apparent that James Comer and the Republicans are not ready for prime time, let alone 10 a.m., which is when everyone stopped paying attention to this.
Now, Lemon said after the fact, apparently free speech absolutism doesn't apply when it comes to questions about him from people like me. Oh, you think? You mean the guy who banned Liam Neeson because he hurt his feelings isn't keeping it 100 when it comes to free speech? You think? Now, these are questions you ask before you take the deal, unless, of course, you don't care and you're just willing to be his token leftist. Now that I got that out the way, Elon Musk, let me holler at you a minute, because you did say a couple things that needed some clarification. And just for the sake of this, I'm gonna pretend like your company isn't battling lawsuits for racial discrimination.
California's suing Tesla, accusing the electric car maker of operating a racially segregated workplace at its factory in the San Francisco Bay Area.
We just want to be just treated and seen as equal human beings.
But yet, here you are.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on. I think we just treat people like people.
You think we don't want to just move on? You think we hit the streets to protest just for exercise? If you treated people like people, you wouldn't be dealing with Owen Diaz saying,
we just want to be just treated and seen as equal human beings.
You don't agree that this country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities that still continue on to this day.
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country.
Okay, first of all, we're not talking about every country. That was a nice try. But let me hear that one more time.
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country.
Every country at that time and even today is extremely racist? Well, first of all, that's great self-awareness. But didn't you just say...
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on.
Make it make sense.
Obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country, but was not present in the North. There was racism for sure, but I think we want to look to the future rather than the past.
Look to the future? You just said even today. You got discrimination lawsuits today. The X timeline is an antebellum fireside chat today.
Because in fact, if you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone.
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No,
but
everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
Challenge accepted. Give me another example where the slave masters were compensated, but the slaves weren't. Oh, what's that? Oh, looks like we got compensation for atrocities in other countries too. Try again.
We are all descended from slaves.
Yeah.
Well, all of us.
Yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent?
I'll take more recent for 400, please.
Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
But what future do we want? Is this something we want to make a part of our constant dialogue forever, or do we want to say, like, let's just move on and treat everyone, according to just who they are as an individual?
Hey, Owen, you up again?
We just want to be just treated and seen as equal human beings.
According to just who they are as an individual.
I agree with you with that. That's the ideal. But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice.
I think we're doing better than anywhere else.
How do you think we got to this point where we're doing better than everywhere else? It's just Frederick Douglass and Nat Turner and Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Marcus Garvey, W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, MLK, Malcolm, and Fred Hampton. They all just laid down and waited for you to slowly restore their rights out of the goodness of your own hearts. That's how we got here, right?
But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages did my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that many people of color don't. You were able to come to this country voluntarily. There are many people who were not able to come to the country voluntarily. There are people who came here as slaves.
For me to come here.
And there is a legacy of slavery that still continues on. There's a legacy of racism that still continues on in this country. That's undeniable.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away.
Ah, that's right. Racism is like that schoolyard bully. You just have to ignore, and eventually racism will get bored and pick on a different color. Why didn't we think of that?
When the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point, in our history, gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well, so Democrats are flooding the country with illegals to add population and therefore seats and electors to gain an advantage in a system that already favors Republicans, because votes in less populous states, which skew right, count more, which is why George W. won the 2000 election with 47.8% of the vote, and Trump won in 2016 with just over 46% of the vote. So that's the case you're making, is the already jacked up system which favors us might not favor us as much if they flood the country with illegals, which I think they're doing intentionally. You know what? I'm going to be honest. I just wouldn't have said nothing. I just wouldn't have said nothing. Hey, you got a nice little scam going on over there. No, keep it low. Keep it low. You know, that's like me complaining to my wife if we did the exact same job and I got paid more than she did. You know, they take all these taxes out my check. They need to do something about this. This ain't right. Moreover, if this was the whole objective, then why is it that Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Florida's Ron DeSantis, according to Trump, ship migrants to New York and California? That seems like hustling backwards to me.
Let's talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. All right, that's been a target of yours lately on X. There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards...
Wait, play that one more time.
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards...
Tell me you're racist without telling me you're racist. The question was about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the first thing out of his mouth is about lowering standards. Now why would it lower standards? It only does if you think black people aren't capable and therefore need the standards to be lowered. No hiring bias, no nepotism. It couldn't possibly be that, I don't know, historically white professions from the days when we literally weren't allowed to do them kind of discourages black people from pursuing them. Or the investment to build a pipeline to these professions, which already exists in white spaces, which when done correctly means you have a larger talent pool to choose from and therefore even better applicants across the board. But who wants to do all of that? Let's just keep it white. They lowering the standards. They took our jobs.
If the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
And they've even gone to hypotheticals to make their imaginary point. Who does that? Now I get it.
You post a lot of controversial stuff. Is that considered blowing off steam?
Well, I guess I do enjoy using the platform.
So you do a lot of it at night, like late at night. So when you're doing this, are you sober when you do it?
Almost always,
yes. Under the influence of anything?
No, I don't drink. I don't really. No.
And you know what the scary thing is? I believe them.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
Oh no, this man must be stopped. There are two kinds of black friends, the kind that put you over with black people, and really a lot of white people too. And then there are those that sacrifice themselves in the process. You know, the kind that get bold when no other black people are around.
We deserve President Donald J. Trump.
The ones that will lie to black people.
About Black History Month, let's talk about black results. Under President Trump, we were certainly better off. I mean, Harris, you know the numbers, but let me just break them down very quickly. Number one, economically, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the history of our country.
And the ones that will lie on black people.
Who's the president who brought the most money in for historically black colleges and universities? Donald Trump.
By the way, in 2019, Trump did sign the Future Act that permanently provided $255 million in annual support for HBCUs that had lapsed after Congress didn't renew the funding. Biden made no changes to that commitment, and federal funding of HBCUs has increased every year under Biden to the tune of $2.7 billion in HBCU funding through the American Rescue Plan. That was in addition to that annual funding increase. Also, the unemployment rate for black residents shrunk to a record low 4.7% in April 2023, the first time the rate fell below 5% since the department began tracking the statistic for blacks in 1972, which, by the way, is kind of messed up. They didn't track it for us until then. But I digress. Now, Donald Trump has had black friends before. There was Omarosa.
You seem to have suspected, when you heard that Donald Trump had used the N-word, had made racially derogatory things back when he was filming, in fact, the first year of The Apprentice. What made you think they might be true?
Well, I didn't discover it until the fall of the campaign in 2016 when a producer, Bill Pruitt, came out and he tweeted that Donald Trump had said some very horrible things, including some racist things. My first reaction to it was just, this can't be true. This is somebody I've known since 2003. He had always been kind to me, as I said, repeatedly in dozens and dozens of interviews. And so when I heard it, my first instinct was to protect him.
That ended badly, but come on, Omarosa. Come on now. I'll take your "this is what really happened" and charge it as "I was fine with it until I got fired." And then there was Ben Carson.
Everything they have, they're throwing at President Trump because they're desperate to stop him. And they're desperate to stop you and me.
Oh, my bad. That apparently won't ever end. I think he's still talking. But now, Trump's got a new black friend.
Because I told them right to their face, nobody owes you anything for slavery. If you want to tell the truth about it, it is you who owes.
No, not you, Mark Robinson. You really said that, though? That should be a whole nother video, and I'll make it. But no, you gotta wait your turn. You know it's only one black friend at a time. I mean, this guy.
I have to say, this is in a very positive way, Tim Scott. He has been much better for me than he was for himself. I watched this campaign, and
I'm sorry, come again?
I have to say, this is in a very positive way, Tim Scott. He has been much better for me than he was for himself. I watched this campaign, and
you're laughing at him roasting you like that in front of everybody? He said you're better for him than you are for yourself. Man, you used to be a congressman in South Carolina. And you were the first black senator elected from the South since the Reconstruction era. Only the fourth black senator since Blanche Bruce, who was a former slave. And now you're sitting in the stands kikiing while Trump slanders your whole career? A career helped by Nikki Haley, by the way.
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it. Appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
Your dignity is turning over in his grave right now, wondering what it's been your whole life. Weren't you just in the race? Now, we can make fun of Nikki Haley for a lot of things. I mean a lot of things, and I've done it. But still being in a race that you dropped out of, that ain't one of them. I don't see how you can hate from outside the club. You can't even get in. And didn't you just get engaged? What's Mindy supposed to think? You finally decide to come out the closet and get married, and now you out here professing love to another man in public. Can we unclaim a black man more than once? Can he be double unclaimed?
Although there's a lot of tension, obviously, between President Trump and Governor Haley. That makes sense as they're headed to the showdown in South Carolina. But he says things like she may not be eligible to run, suggesting she wasn't born in the U.S., which she was.
Oh, okay, he got this one. He got to call out the racism. Birtherism again? Trump, you are nothing if not predictable.
Well, there's no doubt that the race has gotten kind of challenging without any question. Listen, the rhetoric coming out of the Haley camp, talking about people's age. We see the Haley camp and the family referring to me as Judas Iscariot. We're hearing a lot of chatter out of the Haley camp, not only just matching the rhetoric from the Trump side, but actually going further. Why? Because they're desperate.
You know what? Maybe he just didn't hear you. You know what? Let's give him another shot.
He has also called Haley a bird brain, questioned whether she has the right to run for president because her immigrant parents were not yet legal citizens. How does that attract independents? How does that attract people who voted for Nikki Haley?
Well, here's what I can tell you. Both candidates and all candidates should focus on the issues without any question. When Nikki Haley talks about the president's age and a competency test, I think that turns off senior voters. It's one of the reasons why.
Go back to Donald Trump. I want to talk about Donald Trump.
Well, it's one of the reasons why senior voters support Donald Trump. Here's what we should ask ourselves, and I'm asking myself.
Please answer the question about him calling her a bird brain. You worked with her. She appointed you a senator. Do you like that kind of language?
His language is far more provocative than mine, but this is not about simply my opinion of one candidate. I also think that talking about someone's age is inappropriate.
Wow. Tim Scott turned on the one person who nominated him for the Senate, and the only people surprised haven't been following Tim Scott, because you can't expect loyalty from a black man who turned on black people. Also, we're not talking about age anymore.
The guy can't even walk off a platform. No, he can't find the stairs. He can't put two sentences together.
Are you sure?
When I imitate Biden, who can't find the stairs ever. What the hell are they doing? All you need is one stair. But for Biden, you need many. Thank you. Where am I? Thank you. But he goes, and then.
That's your man's?
But he ran, and he did fine. And then when he got out, he endorsed me, and he's a surrogate. He's the greatest surrogate I've ever seen.
Oh, he's a surrogate, all right.
This is now a race between Joe Biden and our friend, Donald Trump. This is a race between America's future and America's past.
Oh, the past. Like an old president from before this guy who's still complaining about the election in 2020. Well, he is right about one thing.
Whether you're a Republican or independent and a few Democrats, you want a nation that the law and order applies to all Americans fairly.
It's about time, brother.
Justice system in New York and the DOJ continues to make President Trump into a victim.
Oh, hell no. This all started this week when an appeals court slashed Donald Trump's original $454 million bond by more than 2/3 to $175 million in his New York civil fraud lawsuit, which was a tragic result for comedy fans everywhere who yearn to see a man once convicted of housing discrimination against black people get his property seized by a black woman. I mean, how could you? How could you? That kind of irony don't just pop up every day. I mean, maybe if the feds raiding Diddy's properties are yelling, take that, take that, take that, take that. But by the way, that makes him the first person I've ever heard just get their bond slashed just because. I guess going to the news and claiming to be broke really does have its benefits. It's not all about child support. Now, we may still get a chance to see it, though, so stay tuned. Letitia James may have her day in the sun, but the reduced bond offers him a financial lifeline, given that he claimed not to have the cash on hand to cover the original amount. What? That can't be right. He always bragging about how rich.
I love other people's money.
Ah, now I get it. Still, that's fortunate, because you never know where he might get that money.
Is there any effort on the part of your team to secure this money through another country, Saudi Arabia or Russia, as Joy Behar seems to think?
Well, there's rules and regulations that are public. I can't speak about strategy.
Would you ever accept money from a foreign government to pay the bond or your fines or any
No, I don't do that. I think you'd be allowed to, possibly. I don't know.
I love other people's money.
The decision sets the stage for Trump's criminal trial, scheduled to begin on April 15th in New York.
Emily, you pointed out he's also said respect to the court. He will do what he is told to do. And you think that works for him?
I do, and I think it's significant because it's in contrast to what many members of the Democrat Party do, which is say, I'm not complying, Hunter Biden. The Supreme Court justices are off their rocker, President Biden. Right? We have a lot of examples of people who disrespect the court when they disagree with their ruling. President Trump is not one of them.
Who gonna tell her?
Respect the appellate division for substantially reducing that ridiculous amount of money that was put on by a corrupt judge named Engoron. He ought to be looked at, seriously looked at, especially what he did with valuations. He's the one, he's a fraudulent valuator. Because it's a setup, it's a rigged trial. We have a hostile group of people, we have a very hostile judge.
How long has her cable been cut off?
I have the worst judge in the whole country, and I have a trial going on, a fake trial, a totally fake trial. And we asked the judge if I could take a day off for a funeral of my mother-in-law, who was very close to me also. And he said, no. Can you imagine? These are animals. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Oh, maybe what she meant was he didn't disrespect the judge today, right? That's MAGA logic. If it's not happening right now, this moment, then it doesn't exist. What is it? Nighttime there? Ain't no sun. Ain't no sun. It doesn't exist. Fake news.
Businesses are fleeing and crime is flourishing all over the state, and what he's done is such a disservice and should never be allowed to happen again.
And there it is.
But Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country. We have a judge who I believe is a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general. Absolutely crooked.
Couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. He's like an addict.
This is a pure case of voter intimidation and election interference.
I'm sorry. Did he say election interference? You mean like this?
We've now learned that there was this big effort by the former administration, the senior people in the former administration, to interfere with the vote counts on the state level.
Or like this.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down. Anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Or like this. Okay, go on.
If this was a case could have been brought 3.5 years ago, and they decide to wait now, just during the election, so that I won't be able to campaign. We'll be appealing this.
Yeah, you can't appeal this, but I know that you'll try, just like how you're trying to convince everybody that you're a victim of a two-tiered justice system.
I think the bigger concern here, though, is the two-tiered system of justice.
This is manifest injustice. It is impossible. It's an impossibility. I believe they knew that. I think everything is done intentionally. I do not doubt that the witch hunt, that the election interference goal is what was ringing steady and loudly and true throughout all these trials, frankly. And we're seeing it. It's the demise of our country, not the demise of Trump.
Justice system in New York and the DOJ continues to make President Trump into a victim. And whether you're a Republican or independent and a few Democrats, you want a nation that the law and order applies to all Americans fairly, and we are watching with our own eyes.
I think that's true.
Yes, the two-tier justice system, because who among us hasn't walked around free on bond with 91 cases under their belt? I don't know a single person. Well, maybe Diddy. Maybe Diddy could have walked around with 91 cases.
He did that shit. Guilty as fuck.
Now, in addition to all of the credible SA allegations that he's out from under, look, we would have been in jail just from the Access Hollywood tape.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it.
And I don't mean being caught on the Access Hollywood tape. I thought I would get arrested just from listening to the Access Hollywood tape. A two-tier justice system is half a squadron showing up to accost Eric Garner for selling Lucy cigarettes, him losing his life, and nobody being held accountable for it, except for, of course, the citizens of New York, by and large, who objected to the way the whole thing was handled. A two-tier justice system is Khalif Browder sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why don't we look at how many people in New York State are sitting in jail not being convicted of a crime to pressure them into taking a plea? Well, how about your boy Rudy Giuliani and the stop and frisk? Speaking of a two-tier justice system, which was focused on black and brown citizens. How about Crystal Clanton? You know, the law clerk just hired by Clarence Thomas, who had her text leak where she said, "I hate black people. F them, all of them." Yeah, she worked on cases involving black defendants, and those defendants won't get their cases reopened because Clarence Thomas said so. That's a two-tier justice system. How about the state of Mississippi and District Attorney Doug Evans systematically excluding black jurors? Oh, the fact that those convicted stayed in jail for years before this was even uncovered, or that the man in charge will have little to no punishment for playing with people's lives and freedom. Thanks for playing, Doug. This is what a two-tiered justice system looks like. But don't get it twisted what tier you're on, because Donnie, if you were on the other tier, we wouldn't be seeing an impromptu press conference. We would be reading letters.
And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
Well, where was this when we were in the streets begging for justice and you were talking about law and order?
And we'll bring crime back to law and order. We're going to get those words law and order back.
And you're still there talking about law and order, you know, when you're not in front of us.
And if I were not running, or if I were doing poorly like everyone else has done, because they're all gone, they're all knocked out except for crooked Joe Biden. If I were doing poorly, this wouldn't be happening. None of these trials would have been happening. If I wasn't running, they wouldn't be happening.
Oh, so it's political. Well, last I checked, rich and white worked in our two-tier justice system, whether you're in the conservative country club or the liberal social club. But I get it. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you.
Is this what our tax dollars is paying for? As some of you know, I'm an alumnus of Columbia University, which has been in the news lately, hitting a crescendo on April 18th when Columbia President Manoush Shafik wrote the NYPD regarding a group of students who the day before had established a Gaza solidarity encampment in protest of Israel's operation in Gaza and Columbia's investments in companies allegedly profiting from the war. Now, the Israeli assault on Gaza, which was launched in response to Hamas's October 7, 2023 terrorist attack, has killed thousands of civilians and created a humanitarian crisis. Shafik accused the Columbia students of trespassing on their own campus. She requested the, quote, NYPD's help to remove these individuals as they were not authorized to protest on the lawn and posed what she called a clear and present danger. Now, there's a whole lot to unpack here. For one, the idea of students trespassing on their own campus, a place that their parents are paying upwards of $60,000 for them to be. There's the issue of the First Amendment, where right-wing mega donors have ensured that people had to deal with Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos appearing on their campus and just swallow it because it was free speech. Then you have the policy, the one that she pointed to, which limits protests to designated areas, that was only put in place in February, which I'll be honest, seems quite suspicious. That seems quite suspicious. This policy was put into place seemingly specifically for this particular incident and the fallout. I would also add the approach seems odd considering their objections. They had very real objections, and opposed to acknowledging those objections, you just try and squash the protests. Well, NYPD responded to the request by descending on the university and arresting 108 students. Some students were restrained in zip ties for several hours and transported to a local police precinct before being released. Shafik also said that all students participating in the encampment have been suspended for an indefinite period. Now, one possible justification could be anti-Semitism and other students feeling unsafe on campus, as everyone should feel safe on a college campus. Yet, according to the NYPD, the protest was entirely nonviolent. According to NYPD Chief John Schell, to put this in perspective, the students that were arrested were peaceful, offered no resistance whatsoever, and were saying what they wanted to say in a peaceful manner. And as we know, the police and the NYPD specifically are not shy when they want to claim that somebody was violent, whether they were or they weren't. They weren't going along with this at all. So what was this really about? Well, Shafik claimed that she complied with the requirements of Section 444 of the university statutes, which requires consultation with the university Senate Executive Committee. Yet, according to Janine Darmento, chair of the committee, the executive committee did not approve the presence of NYPD on campus. But I think I do know what it's about, because the day before the NYPD raid, Shafik testified for 3 hours before the Republican-controlled House Committee on Education. The hearing was modeled after prior hearings that forced the presidents of Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania to resign. And if you followed either of those two cases, you know exactly how much of a sham all of this was, specifically in the case of Claudine Gay at Harvard, where they're starting with anti-Semitism and then it devolving into a discussion about DEI and allowing Alicia Fonik to slam dunk on her university because she was deemed too uncouth to stay on the board. So, and if you're wondering if this particular hearing involving Columbia University was any more substantive than those, bear in mind, at one point, Congressman Rick Allen of Georgia, and Georgia, I really need to know what's going on in your state. This isn't even Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is a whole different congressman. At some point, Rick Allen of Georgia told Shafik that in the Bible, God is real clear that, quote, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. And if you curse Israel, I will curse you.
If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you.
He then asked Shafik if she wanted Columbia University to be cursed by God, to which she said,
definitely not.
Okay.
Is this what our tax dollars is paying for? Like, is this really what our tax dollars is paying for? Foreign policy dictated by the Bible. Is this where we're at? And I will say, this is actually telling. This is actually instructive to how we got into this place. How do you justify our continued involvement with Israel with the Bible, because God said, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. And if you curse Israel, I will curse you. That is as good a justification as I've ever gotten from Congress. Now, according to the health ministry, more than 34,000 Palestinians in Gaza, most of them women and children, have been killed in the conflict. And the rhetoric coming from the people who sent money and weapons and technology to create this destruction is, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. Shafiq's actions were blasted in a statement issued on Friday by the Columbia and Barnard College chapters of the American Association of University Professors. The CU Student Council also released a statement reading that students possess the inherent right to engage in peaceful protest without fear of retribution or harm, and called for the preservation of freedom of speech and expression among students. You know, the kind of thing that right-wingers are always railing for when it comes to them potentially being canceled. Now, in the wake of mass arrests, the protests on the South Lawn have continued and inspired others to protest in solidarity across the globe. In addition to NYU, encampments have been set up at California, Berkeley, MIT, University of Michigan, Emerson College, Tufts, and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. In New Haven, Connecticut, at least 47 people were arrested at Yale on Monday morning after setting up an encampment on campus Friday night. Brown, Princeton, and Northwestern held protests on Friday and over the weekend, and support is even garnered as far away as the University of Sydney. Now, the scene at NYU was particularly compelling, with NYPD coming in to clear the encampment during prayer. The visual itself was quite stark. And yet, the answer to all of it nationwide has been allegations of anti-Semitism. There you have it. Even President Biden got in on the act. On Sunday, the White House released a statement in response to the protests at Columbia denouncing calls for violence and physical intimidation targeting Jewish students, which I'll say was a bit weird considering the NYPD statement. They specifically said that nobody they arrested was violent. Some media outlets are interpreting as a response to this video in which two unidentified men promised more terrorist attacks against Israel.
Never forget the 7th of October. Never forget the 7th of October.
Now, according to the individual who posted the video, the incident did not occur on Columbia's campus, and there's no evidence that Columbia students were involved in any way. Immediately after this statement was put out, the hashtag Charlottesville was trending, with people juxtaposing Biden's reaction to Trump's reaction in Charlottesville. But there's one very specific stark difference I would like to note. Whereas in Charlottesville, Trump was defending the actions of the protesters, that being his base and making sure they knew that he was going to protect them. In this particular case, Biden's objection, his vulnerability going into the 2024 election, is from the far left. Those are the people that were protesting, and those were the people that he was willing to adopt the worst assumptions about when he made that statement. And that's one of many reasons why he finds himself in the situation he finds himself in right now, a few months away from the election. Dr. Shafiq said tensions on campus had been exploited and amplified by individuals who are not affiliated with Columbia, who have come to campus to pursue their own agendas. And we know that to be true. We've seen it before. In 2020, you have just straight up anarchists who just want to see the world burn that will show up because this is a perfect outlet for their madness. You have the extremists, the kind of people that aren't necessarily associated with any particular Columbia group, but they've had these deep-seated feelings for a long time, and this is the closest they'll get to actually being able to express it. And then you have people that, quite frankly, are counter-protesters that will be here just in order to make the protesters look bad. We saw all of this in 2020 when we were in the streets marching for Black Lives. But what I will say to Dr. Shafiq, I totally agree that the tensions have been exploited and amplified by individuals that are not affiliated with Columbia. But why didn't you take that to heart before you called the NYPD to start arresting folks and start suspending people for indefinite periods of time? You're not taking your own words to heart. Even so, I can't dispute the feelings of Jewish students who feel unsafe on campus any more than somebody could dispute my feelings. But I also cannot dispute how much the clear purpose of the protests has been repeatedly swept aside and ignored for the more convenient target of stamping out anti-Semitism. They've made clear their objection to U.S. foreign policy and war profiteering on the part of the universities, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about that. For years, we could never have a nuanced discussion about Israel and Palestine without accusations of anti-Semitism drowning out any criticism of Israeli action, because apparently it was anti-Semitic to disagree with Benjamin Netanyahu. Maybe Rick Allen can find that passage in the Bible. Well, that's not working anymore, and clearly we're not prepared to handle that any more than Congressman Rick Allen. Columbia, by the way, has been here before. In 1968, massive student demonstrations over the university's ties to the Vietnam War and its plans to build a segregated school gym on public land also led to hundreds of arrests. In the end, administrators ended the school's relationship with a war-connected think tank, but the upheaval soured Columbia's relationship with many rich donors, crippling the university's finances. Now, that's a little odd. You know, one might think the relation to the think tank or the segregated gym might cause donors to back off, but no, it was the objection to it that caused them to back off, which quite frankly is both disgraceful and damning of us as a society. Now, if I told you there was already financial fallout for Columbia University for the most recent protest, then what would you guess the reason for that would be? Go ahead and rack your brain. What would you guess the reason for the current financial fallout? Quote, "I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country. I am no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff, and I'm not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken." That was New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, former student and supporter, announcing his decision to pull that financial support. In October, former U.S. Ambassador John Huntsman pledged to stop giving money to the University of Pennsylvania, where he was once a student and where his family has been prominent donors for years. Shortly thereafter, billionaire hedge fund founder Leon Cooperman, a Columbia graduate, said he would no longer give money to the university. Yet no donors have stopped giving money to protest Israel's operations in Gaza or Columbia's investments in companies allegedly profiteering from the war. And that's how we got here.
One of the things I say in response to the media is when they talk about, or especially early on, about the way I did my job, I said, I will absolutely leave the court when I do my job as poorly as you do yours.
Well, Clarence, I think we've reached that point. Let's just say for a moment, I want to give Clarence Thomas the benefit of the doubt. We're not a monolith. It just so happens that the highest ranking black judicial officer in the land just so happens to side against the goodwill of black people always. Well, maybe there's aspects of the law we just don't understand. Then this happened. Justice Clarence Thomas has appointed Crystal Clanton as one of his law clerks, one of only 36 chosen each year from the entire pool of law graduates. Crystal Clanton, that name rings a bell. Of course it does. This is the same Crystal Clanton who had her racist text messages revealed for all the world to see, including one reading, quote, "I hate black people," in all caps, like F them all. You know what? Tell us how you really feel, Crystal. Actually, you know what? Never mind. You just did. By the way, the texts were originally uncovered by The New Yorker during an investigation into Turning Point USA, where she was the field director. Now, speaking of black people and hate, this gets better. Clanton actually lived with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife, Jenny. In 2022, a federal judicial panel ordered that an investigation be launched into Clanton's past. And guess who vouched for her and helped get the whole investigation dropped? You know what? If you guessed Uncle Ruckus, you were close, but not self-hating enough. The correct answer was Clarence Thomas. Clarence put on the Captain Salem cape and swooped in like a crow, saying, I know Crystal Clanton and I know bigotry, and bigotry is antithetical to her nature. Man, he put those tap shoes to work. Then he gave her a job. And because of this intervention, none of the cases this self-professed hater of all black people worked on will be reviewed. Now, let me repeat that for those in the back. A law clerk who herself admitted she hated black people worked on cases involving black people, and those cases won't be reviewed because Clarence Thomas said so. America. Now, let me ask you another question. How could a woman who hates black people live with and work for a black man? The only answer I can come up with is because he hates black people too, and not in the Chris Rock way.
Okay.
Thomas actually hates both groups. Now, under normal circumstances, a Supreme Court justice consorting with and then hiring somebody who's shown such clear bias would be a scandal, but not if that justice is black. And now you see the value in Clarence Thomas. Oh, no, it can't be racist because Clarence said it's fine. Now, his betrayal started a long time ago. Before the Supreme Court, Thomas worked on the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission during the Reagan administration, where he fought the use of class action lawsuits to enforce workplace discrimination laws. In 2013, Thomas voted with the majority in Shelby County versus Holder to gut the Voting Rights Act, arguing that racism in voting no longer existed. This action and misguided ruling allowed Southern states in particular to advance rapid-fire voter ID laws and voter suppression tactics designed to limit black access to the ballot. Which brings us to affirmative action. Oh, what's that, Clarence? You would like to say a few words? Okay, you have the floor.
It goes back to the thing about affirmative action. You have to believe in affirmative action because we think you ought to believe in affirmative action. Well, how's that different from slavery? How's that different from segregation? How's that different from being told you can't walk across that park? Oh, you can't think those thoughts. How's that any different? You know what? I'd prefer to be excluded from the park.
Wait, you don't believe in affirmative action? But aren't you the same guy who said in 1983, as head of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that affirmative action laws were of, quote, paramount importance? But for them, God only knows where I would be today, end quote. That was you, right? Oh, I get it. Yeah, your thoughts have evolved since moving up through the ranks to the top. It used to be, thank God for affirmative action, and now it's, I don't believe in it. So you climbed all the way up the ladder and then knocked it down. It don't get more crabs in a barrel than that. I've been wanting to address Clarence Thomas ever since that ProPublica report about him accepting payments. Oh, y'all don't remember? I could understand because filth been collecting around Clarence Thomas like charges on Donald Trump. But that's no problem, Donald Trump. Your good old buddy Clarence can't help you get out of because that's why Clarence is there, right? Now, ProPublica's report disclosed that over 20 years ago, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas expressed concerns about his salary to a Republican congressman. Following this, Thomas received an extensive array of gifts from friends and associates, particularly right-wing billionaires, including luxury travel, tuition payments, and other support. So Clarence was like, that is a nice conservative majority you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Now, Thomas voiced dissatisfaction with his salary of $173,000 in the year 2000, which is equivalent to over $300,000 today. Details of Thomas's financial discussions, his interest in earning additional income, and attempts to lift restrictions on justices giving paid speeches were all illuminated. And all this time, I thought Clarence Thomas just hated himself for being black. Turns out he just loves money more than anything. And I mean anything. I don't call people sellouts often, but Clarence's soul is literally for sale to the highest bidder. shockingly, Thomas's financial situation notably improved during his later years on the bench. I've seen estimates as high as $80 million, with significant payments for his memoir and undisclosed expensive gifts, raising ethical concerns amid an ongoing ethics crisis involving gifts received by Thomas and fellow Justice Samuel Alito from wealthy conservatives with interest before the court. And I never thought I'd see the day when the Supreme Court is so corrupt, investigators have to look into billionaires flying them out like Instagram baddies. If this was any other job, security would be escorting Clarence Thomas out the building, possibly in handcuffs. And for some reason, America thought it was a good idea to make Supreme Court justices almost untouchable, as if that kind of power would never corrupt somebody. Representatives like Bill Pascrell Jr. have called for Thomas's resignation, alleging corruption and highlighting the coincidental timing of Thomas's complaints and the subsequent flow of gifts from right-wing billionaires. But Clarence Thomas is not resigning on his own. Not when he's raking in money like that. They're going to have to figure out something. Otherwise, Clarence is showing up to work to vote for whoever pays him the most. And we know exactly who that is. Oh, you thought he was going to recuse himself from deliberations involving Trump? Oh, because of his conservative donors. Or maybe because his wife pressed White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to overturn the 2020 presidential election, texting him November 5th, Biden crime family and ballot fraud co-conspirators, elected officials, bureaucrats, social media censorship mongers, fake stream media reporters, etc., are being arrested and detained for ballot fraud right now and over the coming days, and will be living in barges off Gitmo to face military tribunals for sedition. Then, November 6th, do not concede, it takes time for the army who is gathering for his back. And then again, November 10th, help this great president stand firm, Mark. You are the leader with him who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history. And those are just the texts that don't involve QAnon and deep state conspiracies. Oh, you think he should recuse himself? Oh, the man has a job to do. And he's going to make sure they get their money's worth and cover for their anti-blackness. Who better than a black man?